Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So today we're going to explain about the last subtopic, which is 45.2 community development and 45.3 dynamic of an ecosystem. So here 45.2 learning outcomes. In the end of this video, we will be able to choose the correct sequence of events that occur during the ecological succession and compare the two types of ecological succession. So, what is ecological succession? Ecological succession is a change within a community involving a series of species replacement. We have two types of ecological succession. The first one is primary succession and the second one is secondary succession. What is primary succession? Primary succession is a formation of soils from exposed rock due to wind, water and other abiotic factors. And the secondary succession is disturbance-based succession in which there is a progressive change from grasses to shrub to a mixture of shrub and trees. Primary succession occur in areas where there is no base oil. However, secondary succession occur in areas where soils are already present. The example of primary succession is volcanic eruption or glacier retreat. And the example of secondary succession is cultivated field return to a natural state. Here is example of primary succession as glacier retreat from Glacier Bay, Alaska. The first picture shows us a lichen stage. This stage, lichen and mosses invade the area left vacant by the retreating glacier. Next, shrub stage, the small bushes grow in the newly abundant soils. Here we have a low tree stage. This stage is a fast-growing as the trees help build the soil nutrient and water content. And lastly, we have high tree stage. Improved soil condition allow the white spruce western hemlock to develop, eventually moving to a mature and stable community. Alright, next, I will explain more about the pioneer species. What is pioneer species? Pioneer species is the first producer to inhabit a community after a disturbance. Pioneer species will begin the secondary succession. The initial stage begins with a small, short-lived species. Then it will proceed through stage of species of mixed sizes and lifespans, until finally large, long-lived species of trees predominate. Succession in a forest. Look at this picture. It starts from the grass, low shrub, high shrub to the shrub or tree mix, low trees, high trees, and lastly, climate community. What is meant by climate community? Climate community is a succession in a particular area will always lead to the mature and stable community. In this figure, shrubs can arrive until grasses have made the soil suitable for them. Each group or species prepare the way for the next, so that grass shrub forest development occur in a sequential way. We also have an inhibition model that help explain succession, predict the colonies, hold on the space, and inhibit the growth of other plants until the colonies die or damage. And the next model is tolerant model that predict the different type of plants can colonize an area at the same time. Each succession stage has its own mix of plants and animals. Lastly, we do not know whether succession continues to specific endpoints because the process may not be complete anywhere on Earth. So, that's all from 45.2 subtopic, and I will pass it to my friend Afiq, and he will explain more about 45.3 subtopic. Thank you.
Okay, now we are going to talk about topic 45.3. The dynamics of an ecosystem. This topic has 4 learning outcomes. The first one is describe the interactions of organisms with their environment that comprise an ecosystem. The second one is identify the way autotrophs, photoautotrophs and heterotrophs obtain nutrients. Third one is interpret the energy flow and biogeochemical cycling within and among ecosystems. The fourth and the last one is explain the energy flow among populations through food webs and ecological pyramids. Autotrophs. What are autotrophs? Autotrophs is an organism that can produce its own food using light, water, carbon dioxide, or even chemicals. Autotrophs is divided into two groups. The first one is photoautotrophs, the ones who obtains energy by the process of photosynthesis. Some examples of this is land plants and algae. The second group is chemoautotrophs. They obtains energy by oxidizing inorganic molecules. Some examples are the autotrophobic bacteria. The second one we have is heterotrophs. They are divided into four groups. The first one is herbivores, those who eat plants. The second one we have carnivores, those who eat other animals. And then we have the omnivores, those who eat both. And lastly, we have the detritivores, those who eat detritus. Next, we have decomposers. Decomposers acquire nutrients by breaking down dead organic matters, including animal wastes. They are a valuable asset in an ecosystem because they are the ones who transfer all the nutrients back into the soil to be taken up by the plants once more. Next, energy flow. Energy flow will always start with producers because they will absorb the energy from the sun, the solar energy. Through each stages of an energy flow, only a portion of the original energy is transferred. For example, only a portion of the energy from the producers is transferred to the herbivores. And eventually, the energy dissipates into the environment as heat. As we all know, heat is a form of energy. Thus, the vast majority of ecosystem cannot exist without the continual input of solar energy. A certain amount of the food eaten by a herbivore is not digested and is eliminated as feces or animal wastes. And then the metabolic nitrogenous wastes are excreted as urine. A large portion of the assimilated energy or the consumed energy is used during cellular respiration and thereafter becomes heat. This explains the statement before, which stated that all the energy eventually will dissipate as heat because of the cellular respiration. The remaining energy will then be used to increase the body weight of the herbivore or create additional offspring, which will then become available to carnivores to consume. For example, if 9,000 grams per meter energy was transferred from producers to a herbivore, only 900 of it, or 10% of it, will be available for the next consumer. Trophic levels. Trophic levels refers to the level of the consumers or consumers in a food web or chain. Okay, the first one are leaves or the producers, which is at the first trophic level because they are the first one to produce nutrients. Okay, and then we have the caterpillars and warblers at the second trophic level as the primary consumers, and after that we have hawks as the third trophic level as the secondary consumer. And that is some example from the grazing food chain. And then we have the detrital food chain, starting with detritus or the producers at the first trophic level, consumed by the earthworms at the second trophic level, or they are also known as primary consumers. And then are consumed by salamanders at the third trophic level. Next, we have the biomass pyramid. Biomass refers to the number of organisms multiplied by the dry weight of the organic matter within one organism. Usually, the biomass of the producer is expected to be greater than of the herbivore, and herbivores to be greater than those of carnivores. Basically, producers have the greatest biomass, and carnivores have the lowest biomass. But in aquatic ecosystems where algae is the only producers, the herbivores may have a greater biomass because the algae is consumed at such a high rate. Such ecosystem will have an ecological pyramid in the form of inverted pyramids because of the difference in the biomass level. As we can see, the inverted pyramid in the diagram on the right consists of two types of planktons. The first one is zooplankton. Zooplankton basically is the heterotrophic type of planktons, and phytoplankton is the autotrophic of the plankton, basically the producers. For example, algae. That's why it's inverted, because the biomass of phytoplanktons is smaller than those of the zooplanktons. So yeah, these kind of drawbacks are making ecologists hesitant to use pyramids to describe the ecological relationships, because the inverted pyramids is different than that of the normal pyramids, which I'll show you in a bit. Another problem is what to do with the decomposers. Like we said earlier, some examples of decomposers are mushrooms, which are rarely included in pyramids, even though a large portion of energy ends up becoming detritus in most ecosystems. Yeah. Okay, this is the normal pyramid or ecological pyramid. In this pyramid, we can see that only about 10% of the original amount of energy is transported with each successive trophic level. Like we can see here, the autotrophs, which produce 809 amount of gram per meter amount of energy, consumed by herbivores, but only 37 gram per meter square of energy is transferred. The amount of energy eventually will become too small for the top carnivores, resulting in a limited amount of top carnivores in an ecosystem, which refers to the smaller biomass carnivores. Like we said earlier, producers have the highest level of biomass, and the carnivores have the lowest level of biomass. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.